Maybe it's not about trying harder, but trying with your heart. So I had a period of time in my life where I would say, or anyone else could say, that things were going good for me. I had 2 cars, I owned my own home before 30 years old. So I kind of had got to myself of thinking that I knew how to do things. I had things figured out. I knew the way to go about things, and I kind of did, but I found out in the long run, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. The success that I had was based off of logic. I worked a lot, I got a good job, I chased myself from job to get this much more an hour, this much more an hour. I saved a little money, got into a property, got a car, had another car. In my head, being in my country town, I had it figured out. In my mind, I was Jay-Z. But then once I got to a thing, I got to another thing. And then after a while, it just became like hard for me to keep up with everything. You know how it is. Like first it was cool to have an '05. Now you got an '06. Now you got an '09. Now you got to have a 2024. Now 2024 is out. Who got a 2025? So to keep up, I tried to do what I had known to do. Use my logic, my work. This is how I do it. This is how I figure this out. And this is how I make that happen. And it just became harder and harder to keep up on the pace. There was always something new. There was always something happening, and it just became a rough trip. I started to notice that some of my methods and ways just weren't working, and that happens. Life goes on, the world changes, the way we do things changes so much. And then when one problem would show up, I would have another problem that I would have to handle, and I would have a little bit more difficulty to handle that next problem. And no matter how hard I tried to keep up, it just wasn't enough. My methods wasn't working, my logic wasn't working, nothing was working. And it used to work, but now all of a sudden it went to not working. And this is where the way of the heart came in. And I discovered the book, The Opening of the Way, and in these ancient Egyptian teachings, the way it introduces the way of the heart, which deals with the balance between our brains and our heart and which one is actually superior. So like, what is the middle way? Well, the middle way is good. You know, our heart between our upper and our lower. See, we have our higher self that thinks on these, whatever you want to call your religion, whether holy or high things that are a benefit of humanity, the good things, the sparkly, twinkly things that we think about. But we also have this lower half, which causes a lot of drama in our life. You know, our sexual organs down to our stomach. Between food and sex, it rules the majority of the world. And not being balanced, most of us are ruled by our low half. That's called the low end theory. Y'all remember Tribe Called Quest had that thing called the low end theory? Y'all should check that out. So the way of the heart, the middle way, allows us to lie in the middle of the polar opposites of extremes that happen here in our daily life. You know, our extremes are us acting out or doing something we're not supposed to do, or acting erratically, or consistently making stupid choices and trying to be in control of everything. And then on our low end, it's laziness, inactivity. You ain't doing shit. You just no action, nothing. You just existing at the current moment. You complaining, but you existing. I know because I did it. And the middle way is not about shutting off your mind or shutting off your lower half, but integrating ourselves in a whole. And there lies in the middle way where you keep the balance in between the two. See, a lot of us don't have balance. Like a lot of people in spiritual aspects, they're all mental. They know all facts. They're all spiritual, but they can't sit down and have a drink with you and sit on the beach. A lot of this is about integration. We're programmed and taught that it's about shutting one thing out and shutting off another thing. No, it's about balancing these things and not doing these things in extreme. You know, like Johnny Witherspoon used to say in the old movies, you gotta coordinate, you gotta integrate. And it's funny, I keep coming back to this in a lot of my spiritual studies, integration, when a lot of what I see in the spiritual world or spiritual, metaphysical world, personal development world is a lot of segregation, not integration. Maybe that's why ain't nobody really figuring this shit out. So on the way of the heart, it's about listening to your inner self and actually taking time to meditate and think upon the heart. And it may sound crazy to you, but doing this, you will start to get some deep revelations about your life. And I'm gonna warn you beforehand that it's gonna start revealing stuff that you gotta tighten up, that you gotta fix. I remember one day I was sitting back and I did the meditation of the heart in the chair, and it tore me a whole brand new one. See, our growth comes from pointing at the things that we need to fix, not all the glamorous things. See, everybody wants to run and show their first place rip, but no one wants to talk about the time when they got in the race and they tripped within the first few feet and came in last place. And we don't realize that those are our points of power and the points where the best lessons come from. Again, we're integrating, not segregating. And meditating on the heart, see, the heart leads us into deeper knowing, inner thought, reflection. It sees things from a bird's eye view. And when we're out here making our decisions, we're basing them just using this, and we shut off the heart. We shut off everything, or we're just making our decisions based on our lower half, and we've shut everything else off. Keep going back to the point, it's integration, not segregation. So one time I was ran on going out and hanging out and, getting a drink, hanging out with friends, finding out what's going on. It was like I had an itch. I always had to be there. And then like when I reinitiated back with the meditation of the heart, I got all fixed up and dressed up, ready to go out, go do my normal nothing, sit around and do nothing. And that meditation of the heart kicked in, and it told me about myself. It said, look what you're saying you're trying to accomplish, but look how you're spending your time and what you're doing. And that wasn't something that I wanted to hear. Also came to me that I needed to sit down and read. But I was ready to go out and do my thing. I knew what I wanted to do. That middle way, meditating on my heart, was pulling me in and providing me balance. And also providing me the way of intuition and inner knowing to get to where I actually wanted to get to. I'm saying I want to get here, but I'm doing the actions to get here. How does that work? You see, we're in two separate, see that I'm in two separate directions, and that middle way of the heart brings it all together. And the thing is, it ain't hard to hear stuff, but obeying it. And when I obeyed, I took them clothes off, sat down, started reading, and I'll tell you, in maybe an hour and a half of time, I got maybe 5 days of productivity done. Just by sitting down and listening to the inner heart. People won't listen. People will hear it and won't listen and not realize it's guiding you to where you want to go. While we've been taught to put pride on our brain is not enough to navigate a lot of these situations that are going on. The brain is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it brings in things like ego. It brings in things like overthinking, and we create these fantasies in our head. Again, we've shut off the heart that can bring some reason and some balance to this great imagination that we have about these bad things that are going to happen to us and things that are coming in our direction. We shut off the heart and we just focus on our thinking, and our thoughts are going to figure it out, and our knowledge and the facts that we know are going to lead us to spiritual freedom and all of this great stuff that we say that we're going out. You can't just rely on your mind. You got to include the heart. Start including the heart on daily decisions. You got to operate in the middle way. And how can you do that? The meditation of the heart, I'm going to give it to you right here. There's no product to buy. There's nothing that I'm going to sell you behind it. You sit and you close your eyes, if possible. Some days I do it when my eyes are open. And you close your eyes and you focus on your heart and the area between the solar plexus. That's your belly button. And you just meditate on that. And the Egyptians said that the only challenge in this practice and in enlightenment is the simplicity, because our modern minds are trained in complexity. And the results that you'll get from it will be based on the work that you put in and actually doing it. And you think that it's simple, it's stupid. I know everyone else out here has their fantastic and magical ways and specific ways of doing it. You do that. I'm telling you about this. Man, I get it. Our lives are so busy and toxic. No one really has the time to sit down and meditate and do that. But promise you, wherever you're at, wherever you can find space and time to do it, it starts to make a lot of your pains and your worries go away. You start just to not care about shit anymore. You know, when I start applying it, and then I noticed that the lessons with this come after the sessions, or in between the sessions is when the real lessons. Now, the key thing is you can sit here and do the meditation of the heart and get all of these great transmissions and things, but you know what's going to make it fail? If you don't allow yourself to be guided by the wisdom and the intuition of the middle of the way and the meditation of the heart. You got to like follow the instructions. So like I told y'all that day, it told me to stop when I was all dressed up, ready to go out and turn up. If I could choose to listen or not listen. It's not forcing you in anything, and that's your choice. But know, as you're trying to elevate, you need to listen to something other than your hate. And the middle way shows us that life is about balance, incorporating all aspects of yourself, listening and incorporating all aspects of yourself when you're making decisions. It's about listening to the head and our heart. In another video, I'll probably go into deeper of how we can calm our mind to get into more integration with our whole self.